It's Tuesday night. That means another episode of Goal Horns and Fight Songs, and our cameras are all messed up. Let me fix those real quick. I'm your host, as always, Wes, on Twitter at Painted Bronco. Mike is once again joining me. How are you, Mike?
Doing pretty well.
Hey, look, at least the audio works this time.
I'm proud of you for that.
We didn't have an episode last week because you had some family business you was dealing with,
Yes, sir.
but I believe that is all taken care of now.
It is all taken care of.
Why can't I select what I want to select? Because I'm not anywhere near what I want to be selecting. For those watching, you're getting a behind the scenes look at just how much I don't know what I'm doing. You go over there this time.
This is why Wes does it instead of me, because it's way funnier when he's struggling than when I'm struggling. At least for me.
I would say last week was more productive for both of our teams as opposed to this week, but at least one of our teams got a win this week.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call it more productive or less productive.
Gosh darn it. You want this button, right? Yeah, there we go. Okay. So I want that. What do you want to talk about first? I'll give you the floor here while I keep doing what I'm doing.
Well, I think we can just do, since we missed last week, we can do a little bit of a recap of what happened the week before. Didn't really get a chance to watch many of the games, especially since a lot of the NCHC teams were on the road, so they weren't on NCHC TV. The one that I was able to watch was Denver UMass, a little bit of that, and that surprised me a little bit with Denver getting swept by UMass.
A little bit, but I mean, we've seen that Denver is definitely a home team.
Mm-hmm.
That is, I mean, that's quite a bit of a distance to travel. They're going all the way out to UMass, but
Yeah, it is a distance to travel. It's a little bit different, but at the same time, you would think a team as good as Denver, they would have at least been able to get a split. But 4-2 and then 3-0, that was a little bit of a shocker.
We did also see Denver lose. I think it was. I have some notes on this. I think it was 4 straight early last year too. They lost a couple games to different opponents on back-to-back nights, and then actually lost. Were swept in the first series of the NCHC last year when they were swept at North Dakota. So early in the season, it's definitely a chance to jump on them.
Mm-hmm.
Really, the biggest surprise I think was just Magnus having an off night and not playing up to his normal standards because he's a super solid goaltender.
Yes, yes, he is. Let's see.
Why is your head so big today?
I don't know.
Whatever, it's just gonna be just your head.
It's fair. Um, Colorado College got swept by St. Lawrence. Not necessarily a surprise, but we don't really know a whole lot about St. Lawrence. Let's see, St. Cloud State, they did sweep Wisconsin. Saturday was a little bit closer than Friday's game. North Dakota won a shootout on Friday and then lost 6-2 to Quinnipiac. And Quinnipiac, they've been a solid team the last few years, so that's not necessarily a surprise. Let's see. Omaha, I guess, kind of split. I don't know. It doesn't give the Saturday what happened with Lake Superior State, but they did win Friday. Western, you guys
We swept
won.
our series with Bowling Green, the Thursday Friday series that we played.
Yeah, you took care of business, and then the only other team is UMD, and I just don't want to talk about that
You guys have
against
been
Mankato.
a little bit of a skid here lately.
The Saturday game was better than the Friday game for sure. I caught more of the Friday game than I did the Saturday game, and at one point, Mankato was almost out shooting UMD 10-3. I think shots were 28-3 or 10. 10-1, I should say, because shots were 28-3, and it was just awful. So that being said, with that quick recap, I think we can head into this weekend's games. I honestly did not watch a whole ton of it either. Um, just still kind of dealing with family things and just other things going on. So I don't have much to say about any of these games, and my plan was to watch some recaps as I upgraded my NCHC package, but trying to catch up with work and everything did not quite happen the way I planned.
You guys are on 4 straight losses.
Yes, we are. Why did you have to bring that up?
Because I just looked at my notes from last week, and man, you guys are having problems on and off the ice, both with players being suspended in games and just not playing up to your normal standards there in the Minnesota area, huh?
No, definitely not. And we've said it before, and we're going to say it again. This team is usually built for the postseason. So, kind of like Denver, if you're going to get us, you're going to get us earlier than later, especially come February.
Yeah, I mean, they still got to figure out some of their disciplinary stuff. I mean, to have 2 suspensions in a weekend is a little rough. And I mean, the first one only impacted the next game, but they received a 2-game suspension for a player from Saturday's game, so he's out this weekend.
That is Isaac Howard, one of our freshmen. And
yeah,
I was trying to look for the video of his cross check, and I may have caught it on Saturday, the very end of it, and I don't think it looked too bad, but I could definitely be wrong. It was just a replay and not a great camera angle. So we'll see. We'll see if I can find the video. But yeah, Isaac Howard, 2-game suspension for a cross check, and then Wyatt Kaiser, 1-game suspension for trying to hit the ball out of target field on a Wisconsin player.
y'all had some big time out of conference rivalries going on in the state of Minnesota. North Dakota, Minnesota was another huge rivalry series that had some interesting shenanigans take place.
It always does.
There's interesting shit all over the league now that I think about it. When a Minnesota player threw a stick into the stands, it ended up in the lap of a North Dakota player fan who immediately threw it back on the ice. North Dakota comes back, I believe, to win that game. You guys and Wisconsin, ended up with some suspensions. A couple majors handed out Saturday night in Kalamazoo between some old CCHA rivals. Nebraska got into straight fisticuffs with Alaska, which was really hard to follow exactly what the hell happened there. So if anyone knows and wants to fill us in on a little bit more of that story, I think I've got some of it, but definitely would like to know more. But it looked like, from what I could tell, each team kind of celebrated their win in front of the other's bench, between Alaska winning Friday night and doing it, and then Sunday.
It was Sunday.
UNO returned the favor, and I think it was at the end of the handshake line, somebody from Alaska decided to jump back in line, but instead of getting extra handshakes, decided to introduce his fist to a Omaha player's face mask or cage, whatever you want to call it. Which led to a little bit of a scrum between the two teams. I don't know what's come out of that. I would assume there had to have been something, right?
I would assume that at least a couple players probably gained a game or two out of that. Most likely the player that instigated it from Fairbanks would get the 2, and then some other players would get a game just because they were involved instead of letting them go at it.
Sunday was an overtime goal. I'm not seeing anything. Oh, wait,
Well,
is this
both
one?
both were overtime games then. Yeah.
Yeah, both of their games went to overtime. Alaska winning Friday night in overtime, and Nebraska winning Sunday in overtime. Um, do. All right, so I don't see anything as of right now. There might be still some more news to come out of that.
Yeah, they're probably taking an even closer look and wanting to make sure that
Oh,
they
wait,
get
here we go.
all the players right.
The Rink Live has something. 12 penalties called after Sunday's non-conference game. 120 minutes in penalties at the end of the game. So penalty minutes that have no effect on the outcome of the game. So that's great. Tyler scores a game-winning goal. Alaska's Anton Rubstov, Brendan Nicoletz, Avril Bergmanis.
Avril Lavigne?
What? Will you shut up? And Omaha's Michael Abgro, Jack Randall, and Weiss all received 10-minute game misconducts. So there's 60 minutes of the penalties there. The Nanooks also received a team 10-minute game 10-minute misconduct and a team game misconduct. Because the game was played in Omaha, officials were NCHC. The rest of non-conference games typically come from the home team. Okay, now who were actually suspended? Listen. Thank you, The Rink Live, for being moderately helpful, I suppose. They don't actually say who, or do they actually say who the players that were suspended were? Oh, wait, maybe. Alaska's Brady Risk and Connor Mylomic, and Omaha's Brock Bremer and Caden Bolson were given match disqualification penalties. With the match disqualification, the player must also sit out the next game and his team plays. Yeah, okay. So, Risk and Mylomic will sit out Friday's game against Northern Michigan, and Bremer and Bolson will sit out Friday's game against Long Island.
Ooh.
So 2 players suspended from each teams, a number of others receiving just 10-minute misconduct penalties. The Nanooks got the worst of it. They also received team misconducts and a team game misconduct. So that's the outcome of that. I take back what I said about the Rink Live. I just don't know how to read. So,
Well, we all knew that.
I don't know that we all knew it, but apparently, well, I guess you and I, we make all.
So yes, we do.
It still works.
The one kind of cool thing to come out of that, though, I think, is it shows that Fairbanks has fight and they have pride in their team after not having a team for a couple of years, and this group is bonding together now. The coaching staff probably isn't going to be very happy at them taking penalties like that, but at the same time, I don't know how much you can actually blame them for. Yeah, they brought it upon themselves a little bit, but they're standing up for their team and their team name and their teammates, so I think that's going to help them a little bit.
I mean, we see it in all sports. There's usually a little stuff that gets chippy. There's always at least one fight during inter team practices during preseason for NFL. Like that's always a big thing that we end up hearing about. There's usually team fights in NFL.
Who was it? I don't know. It might have been Jared Allen was saying that in when they just didn't want to practice anymore, they'd look at the other team like, "Hey, did you want to get into a fight?" Yeah, sure. And so they would just get into a fight so they didn't have to practice anymore at training camp.
Yeah. I mean, Aaron Donald was seen swinging 2 helmets of Cincinnati Bengals players this year. So I would say that this might have been slightly less aggressive than that. Western actually ended their game Saturday 4-a-side as 2 players were given 5-minute majors. One player was ejected, one was not. Ryan Hellawell for Notre Dame was given a 5-minute major for charging, and his hit on Jason Pullen caused Pullen to leave the ice to the locker room, and he did not return for the end of the game. About a minute later, Tim Washi decided to lay a dude out. He got the game. He got the 5-minute major for direct contact to the head. He was ejected with a game misconduct. So those were the two big penalties from that game, both coming super late in the third period. This was a tale of two different games. I mean, Western played well both games. Friday night down in South Bend, Indiana, Notre Dame was able to keep Western off the scoreboard. But Western really didn't play awful. I mean, they just weren't able to take full advantage of the opportunities that they had. And the netminder for Notre Dame played a little bit better. Notre Dame got more shots on Cameron Rowe than any team has so far this year. Western's been really good about limiting opportunities, holding teams to less than 20 shots on goal per game. But Rowe faced a season high of 30 shots, stopping 28 of them. Both PKs were perfect on the night. The combined 7 penalties, nobody scored a power play goal. And it's the first time the Broncos have been shut out all season, and they are on pace right now. They're outscoring their opponents 27-13. And it really just goes to show like how much they're controlling the puck and what they're able to do. And they're getting production from everywhere in their lineup. Like, this team absolutely bullied Bowling Green last week. And they really continued a lot of that play this weekend. In front of the Lawson Lunatics, the home crowd, it was different than it was Friday night as the away team. But a lot of the same, too. Like, we did a really good job controlling the puck. We were letting less shots through. In fact, Rowe made 6 saves in the first period, 4 saves in the second period, and 12 saves in the third period. So they did a much better job of limiting opportunities, capitalizing on their own. All 4 of our points came from blue liners. Cedric Fiedler got his first career goal and his second career goal, both in the first period. One I believe was on... No, I don't think one was on the power play. I think we only had 1 power play goal. And then the other 2 goals came in the third period for another defenseman, Zach Galambos, who is a transfer student from... Where did he transfer from? I thought I wrote this down somewhere. Yep.
I'm trying to remember.
He's a double transfer, I believe. But he came to us from American International. And he currently leads the team with 5 goals. Ryan McAllister, our freshman, currently leads the team with 8 points, 3 goals, 5 assists. And Luke Granger, the junior forward, leads the team with 6 assists so far in the season. And 18 different Broncos have recorded a point so far this season. Literally just top to bottom production.
And that's what you need to have everybody able to chip in and produce. Yeah, you're going to have your top guys, but you need to have that depth. And having 18 different Broncos have a point at this point in the year already, that's pretty dang good.
Yeah, and I mean, especially coming from what we had last year, like, we saw a lot of production coming from our top line. And to see that we're now spreading it out a little bit more so over multiple lines. Like, yes, there's still, the top line, I believe, is still the most productive, but 18 different players have recorded a point. I think the first few games we were seeing multiple games where we were scoring 5-6 goals, and it was from 5-6 different players. So, I mean, like, it's hard to compete against teams when they're getting that kind of production throughout their entire lineup.
Yeah, you can shut one line down, but then the other 3 are going to just pick up the slack.
Yeah. So I mean, that's great news. We do still need to limit taking penalties and especially taking big penalties late in games when we're capitalizing on another team's misfortune. So I'd like to see that get cleaned up a little bit. And we'll talk about this week's matchups here in just a few minutes, but I do want to get through that stuff first.
And I will just say, losing 2-0, giving up that many shots, that's not bad. It's just the offense had an off night. If you're gonna lose 2-0, well, you're probably in most games. It's you just didn't score enough. And then to come back at home and win 4-0, that just shows the resilience of the team too, and saying, hey, we like playing at home. We kind of screwed up on Friday. Let's get it back on Saturday.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, it's definitely different playing. It's definitely different being at Lawson, for sure. Like, I've been to a few away games. I've seen some of the different atmospheres, and the team just plays differently. And then when they come back to Lawson and they're in front of a student section that takes up, almost half of the arena, it's bound to be a different experience and to have a little more pep and energy going into a game. We've also seen Western players through 2 weeks take a majority of the NCHC Player of the Week awards. Last week it was 3 Broncos, everything but a goalie. This week it was the goaltender. Cameron Rowe was the goaltender of the week, and I know there was one more. I just do not remember what position it was, so let me check that real quick.
Well, I know it wasn't a UMD player.
No, you guys made nothing. You guys had nothing.
And they don't deserve anything.
Definitely not after their performances. They were bad. Defenseman of the week in Cedric Fiedler, who picked up his first 2 career goals. Other players of the week were forward Grant Cruikshank, another 2-time transfer, former Colorado College Tiger, before transferring to Minnesota. We covered this at some point.
I think it was Mankato. You messaged me about it.
I messaged you about somebody from Mankato. That was somebody else. Who was that? Go through your messages while I look up where.
That is what I'm doing. Columbus.
Yeah, that's right. He was first at Mankato and then AIC. I believe is what I saw. I don't remember when I saw that or what I was doing. Either way. I know he played for Colorado at one point, and I don't remember where he went after that. He is fitting in very well at St. Cloud. In fact, both players who had spent some time in Colorado College's program are performing Minnesota. So he spent 2021-2022 season with Minnesota.
Okay.
Before coming back to the NCHC. Both former Tigers are playing extremely well with their new team of St. Cloud. The goaltender Bazzi also, I mean, he's 6-0 on the season. He's a big reason why that team is playing the way that they're playing, doing what they're doing, and then I think they moved up to number 2 in the US CHO rankings this week. They're on the rise. I mean, they're playing some really good freaking hockey right now too.
Let's see, what are the rankings this week?
Yeah, I mean, Dominic.
Yeah, St. Cloud is number 2.
Dominic Bazzi is currently 3-0. They've split time between their goalies. Each one is really at a 1.33 goals per game average. Bazzi has a shutout. He's got a 9.44 save percentage. Actually, both goalies are extremely similar in their numbers. The only difference is Bazzi has the shutout and made 3 more saves. So, whatever they've got going in that blue paint is really working for them.
Absolutely, it is. And it scares me a little bit for when we actually have to play them.
And then Denver, they got back to their winning ways. They swept Providence this week after a tough weekend last weekend. Couple splits.
I think Denver probably got used to being on the road a little bit, being on the East Coast. I don't know how much they would actually have them fly back, only to fly back across the country again, especially now in the age of online learning.
Well, Denver came to Colorado, so they made the trip back home.
You mean
Providence was at Denver.
um oh yeah, I don't know why they have it listed
I
like
don't.
that.
I don't know. Couldn't tell you.
I'm so
Maybe you don't know how to read either. How about that?
Oh, that's what they're I think that's what they're doing.
I
Is
think.
they're listing the NCHC schools on the top, I think. Because I know North Dakota played down here at least one game.
Let's see. Let's see. 21. Friday, Minnesota was the home team. Minnesota was the home team for both games, Friday and
Yeah,
Saturday.
and I knew UMD was at home, but they were listing them first in the on the NCHC website,
Oh,
which I don't understand why, but
I'm just on the NCAA's website right now. Let's see. Who are the matchups to look at this week? I did not look at, or I did not do picks for last week, um, or this current weekend because we were not on last weekend to do picks, and I don't know what
right.
happened to my picks from the weekend before that. So
Let's just say I did not do very well.
I probably hovered right around where I've been, which is about 50%. I did have Western winning. I know that I had Western sweeping Bowling Green, so you can suck on them eggs. That one I do
I
know for sure.
I think I got maybe one right.
Well, that's because you're bad at picking things. All right, let's move
Yes, I know.
to this weekend.
Um
We
yeah,
got some more big matchups.
I am trying to pull up the schedule.
It's interesting that Minnesota is now number one after last weekend. But, I don't make the
It's
polls. I just disagree with them.
well, it's like Michigan being as high as they were all year, no matter what happened.
Let's see. The number two team in the country, St. Cloud. They are taking on Bemidji. I believe that's a home and home series.
Let's see. It is.
Yeah, it's a home and home.
Yeah, that would make sense. They're close enough.
Honestly, with the way that St. Cloud's playing right now, I don't know that I really want to bet against them. I haven't been paying too much attention to Bemidji, if we're being
Yeah,
honest. I think they generally play each other pretty well. I do lean towards St. Cloud kind of staying on the roll that they're on. Bemidji actually beat Michigan Tech last Friday.
oh, so they already started in conference.
And they tied on Saturday. So
Yeah, and they lost to Arizona State and um won in overtime versus Arizona State.
I mean, I don't necessarily want to say that like the sweep is guaranteed because it is extremely difficult to win in college hockey. We've seen that from, I mean, number one and two both fell this last weekend. I believe Minnesota State was number two going into that game against St. Cloud, and they got swept. They got swept this weekend, and Minnesota was number one, and they split. So, yes, I mean you can say that North Dakota is a much better team than other teams, but I mean there's been times where Western has not been ranked, and they've beaten the number one team in the country. So, there's definitely something to be said about having to play with that high of a number attached to your name and getting the best out of the other team. But I still think the Huskies are a much better team than the Beavs of Bemidji State.
I would agree. I think St. Cloud, I think they get it done both days. Friday's probably going to be a little bit closer than Saturday just because they're up there, but St. Cloud also does have to travel twice instead of only once for Bemidji. I still think St. Cloud sweeps though.
Next is Denver will start NCHC play against Miami at Miami. Really? Is that right? That is right.
That is right.
Interesting. Very interesting. This must also be in Mountain Time because it says that Western and U of M start at 5 o'clock and Denver and Miami start at 5 o'clock. That's not right. I mean, Denver coming off of a rebound weekend, making another trip out east. Miami's actually been surprisingly good this year. I think they're 4-1-1.
Yeah, they're coming off a sweep of Canisius in Canisius last weekend. So they've kind of been the surprise team from as far as the good way.
Yeah.
Um, there've been a few bad surprises, especially UMD.
You mean UMD at 2-4 right now?
Shush.
I'm.
Shush.
You know what? I'm gonna go split on this one. I'm gonna give Miami the dub on Friday. And my pen died, so let me switch it to a different pen that won't die, hopefully. And Denver the win on Saturday.
I think that's about how I'd go too. I think Denver just traveling in, they kind of showed it with UMass that they struggled a little bit with the travel. Yeah, it's not as far, but it's still a decent way to get to Ohio from Colorado. Um, I think I have to agree with you. Miami, especially with how Miami's been playing. Miami Friday, Denver Saturday, they'll figure it out.
I will say that it'll be a great matchup to forward against. I mean, they won't necessarily play against each other too much, but forward on forward of Carter Mazer and Red Savage, a couple Red Wings prospects, tangling up against each other this weekend. That'll be a matchup to kind of keep an eye on and see who performs a little bit better out of those two guys for sure.
Yeah, and I think when we went over Denver's schedule, we kind of wrote this one off a little bit for Denver, like, oh, that's a pretty good start to conference play. And Miami's kind of stunned everybody. Now they haven't played a super strong schedule, but it's not just a bunch of cupcakes either that they've played and played well against.
Yeah, and I mean, I think they're definitely games that have built the confidence of this team. Maybe it's a little bit of a trap. Maybe Denver comes in thinking, oh, it's the same Miami, but we've clearly seen that this is not the same Miami we've been used to the last few years. And Miami, they still have something to prove. Now they're getting a top 3 opponent. They're going to have to compete at a different level that they've been competing at so far this year, but there's no easy team in the NCHC for sure. And like I said, we did see Denver have a 4-game skid last year, so they're not necessarily out of the water yet as far as their ability to potentially give up a game.
Right. It's absolutely a chance. And I think Miami can jump on them. Should we hop to Colorado College since
we can do that? In
Denver, they are playing a home and home against Air Force, and this is a rivalry game for Colorado College, I think.
Yeah, I believe they have already met once this year. I believe they played an exhibition game. There's very little travel that has to take place between these two teams. I think they're literally like campuses are 11 miles apart, I think is what I figured out during the off season. Let me just check my show notes. That's what I can do. And then I won't have to go clicking around everywhere. But that's why it did that stupid stuff earlier. Let me put that back where it was. Okay. That has to be like that, right? Oh no.
You screwed up again.
I sure did. I don't know why or how I did that. Is it just Ah, there we go. Okay. Nope, I figured out how to work it. It's just got to be like that. Don't touch it ever again. Tommy, quit playing with your dinghy. Colorado College, what did you do? Yes, they played an exhibition game with Air Force earlier this year, and I believe they lost that game.
I thought CC won that because I think I remember John complaining about it.
Oh, you know what? You might be right.
I'm pretty sure he freaked out in the chat. How do we lose to Colorado College?
I mean, they're not an awful team. They've had their ups and downs too. Oh yeah, they won 5-1. Big game. I'm still gonna. Oh man, it is. I believe it's actually has a trophy involved here. It is the Battle for Pikes Peak. Yeah, and the 11 miles between the two campuses. So I'm gonna go split.
I'm gonna go split too, and I was gonna get this in before you. I think each home team wins.
That's what I was gonna say too. So Colorado would be Friday.
Mm-hmm. And then Air Force on Saturday.
But I think I was gonna say I think Air Force went to a tie or overtime. I think they had an overtime loss with North Dakota. Let's see. They are currently 2-3-1. They they split with Linwood, split with RIT, and have a shootout win with Notre Dame. And that was in the Icebreaker tournament. They lost to Maine and tied Notre Dame and got a win in the shootout, it looks like. So I mean they're meandering just under 500. So I think a split is definitely in line. It's what they've done every weekend so far. So let's keep tradition up.
Might as well keep the status quo. Let's see. We get two other options here before we get into our teams. Who would you? Actually, only one other option. So that would be Omaha, and actually, well, two other options, but North Dakota is playing a one-game series, and Omaha has a weekend series.
Let's go Omaha first. Omaha and LIU. They played last year, I believe, in Omaha, and this was part of that what seemed to be an easy early season run for Omaha, which kind of made Omaha look a little bit better than I think they actually were last year. We saw them struggle in conference play. I believe LIU is playing a little bit better than they did last year.
A little bit. They did play another new, I can't remember the name of the school because I was looking at it on Friday, but it was another new Division I team that's kind of playing the hybrid schedule that Arizona State did their first year. They're playing a lot. They're moving up from Division II, the only Division II hockey conference in the nation, and all sports are going to Division I, and I think LIU won 8-1 or 8-2 something. They pounded them, but it was kind of like, well, yeah, there's just another little level of hockey there.
Oh, not that one. That was loud. Didn't like that.
It was loud. I think it was like Stonehill University or something. Is who they beat.
I'm gonna go split on this one too.
I'm gonna go sweep for Omaha.
I'm gonna give LIU the win Friday, and UNO is gonna respond on Saturday. I think them having those two players missing is gonna actually affect their game a little bit. But they'll get them back for Saturday's contest and be the team that they were on this, at least at the start of the season, where they've had some success again, I believe. So,
no. Yeah, and I still think they're going to sweep them. I think Omaha has enough talent to...
they're 2-3-1 right now. So I'm gonna stick with my thinking behind that one.
I got to catch up to you somehow. So,
And then North Dakota has. Oh, they're playing
Arizona.
Arizona State in Vegas. Both teams traveling.
Mm-hmm.
Vegas making a shorter trip than North Dakota is. North Dakota travels well. I mean, they lost to Penn State last year in their one-off game, which was slightly surprising. They're 3-2-1. Arizona State, I mean, they continue to struggle. I don't know what's really. Maybe it's the inconsistency in opponents or something that's going on there. They just don't ever seem to be able to put it all together.
Right. They have their moments, but it's not necessarily. They don't string them together, and it's kind of like Miami or Omaha. Like Miami, they have their moments. They just string together worse moments than better moments. Other than this year, Omaha, it's just so up and down that you never really know.
They're once again 500. They're coming off a sweep of Colorado College. They were swept by Minnesota Duluth to start the season. Splits with Bemidji and Colgate. So yeah, I mean they're just super inconsistent. But I mean it's only one game. It's Saturday. It's a Saturday game. It's in. Oh, are they technically? It's Mountain Time. Is that right?
No, it's Pacific time. Vegas is Pacific.
That's what I thought. Why does it say 7 p.m. MST? That's definitely Mountain Time.
I don't know. NCHC website says 8.
I mean, it's gonna be the Arizona time, I believe they're in the same time zone, so they won't really have to adjust. Other than the fact that they're just not playing at home, they'll actually potentially be in front of more people.
It depends on what Arizona is because they kind of choose whatever time zone they want at any given time.
But either way, like I mean, the point is they're making less adjustments than
right.
North Dakota is. I mean, what 1 hour? It'll actually be like 9 o'clock North Dakota time that they're playing, or whatever it ends up being. I don't know.
But I think North Dakota still wins. Especially people are going to want to get the hell out of Grand Forks and go to Vegas and spend their money. So they always travel well, and I think they'll travel really well to this game, just because it's a destination that a lot of people want to go to.
It is fun. T-Mobile is fun. They do a pretty decent job of hosting hockey there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go against North Dakota. I'm gonna go against the NCHC here. It's one game. I think any team can be shocked. One game. I'm gonna just go out on a limb and give it to Arizona, and hope maybe they shock the world here a little bit.
All right, we will differ on that then. Let's see. We can go UMD and then Western for the last two. This one's a little bit interesting of a series because UMD plays Cornell, but I pulled up Cornell's schedule and they have only played 2 exhibition games. They have yet to play a regular season game.
Ooh, I don't like that for them.
I don't either, and it is in Duluth. Yes, we are going to be down Isaac Howard, but he is a freshman. And traveling for your first series of the year to Duluth against a team that is a perennial power, that's a tough way to start the year for anybody.
Yeah, and
with how we've been playing, I almost want to say a split, but I almost can't go against UMD at home against a team playing their first game of the year, just because we already have 6 under our belt.
boy. No, I think UMD comes out and gets the sweep. I think they need something to get them going.
Mm-hmm.
I think the rust of Cornell might be just the thing that the Dogs can latch onto. I definitely tell you, I would not want that to be my first game of the season when they've already got a couple, and they're angry.
Yeah, they are not happy.
Sandlin was 100%. Like I saw a couple articles, he's 100% not happy about the performance he saw last week, and guys getting a little bit too much into their emotions.
Yeah, I would not want to be in that locker room. I tell you what.
Not at all. It looks like a little bit. I mean, this is a really good get right series before we get into the depths of NCHC play. So I think next weekend is really the big start of that.
Yes, it is.
And Duluth has some talented guys. Dominic James has still been playing pretty well. Stayskull seems to be struggling a little bit in net, but he's still kind of getting. I think he's still getting himself back together.
And Thiessen, I don't even know the guy's last name. The other goalie, he hasn't seemed that strong either. He seemed a little bit better than Stayskull, but a lot of it is, from what I've seen, it's still kind of individualistic play by the freshmen that are coming in, and they just need to learn. And the coaching staff can only do so much. It's on those upperclassmen, especially that top line, to say, hey, we don't care what you did in juniors. That's juniors. If you want to win here and have success here, you need to follow what we do. And I put it more on the upperclassmen than the coaching staff.
I mean, we've kind of seen this a little bit with Western. Like, the guys playing well in front of you can give your guys a lot of confidence. If guys are eating shots and you're limiting the opportunities that the other team has, yes, you can kind of get complacent and maybe not be fully into the game. And I think we saw that early in the season during some of the Western games. But I also think that guys are getting more and more confident knowing that the team in front of them is stepping up and eating a lot of those shots and being a team that you're comfortable playing behind.
Yeah.
And there might still just be some of that confidence lacking in the UMD goalies, but this definitely seems like it could be a series where they get some of that sorted out and maybe they get their heads on a little bit clearer.
I think so too. I think it's just what the doctor ordered for them to kind of reset the season, get a fresh start, and move forward going into conference play.
That brings us to our last matchup of Western with a home against the number 4 ranked Michigan Wolverines. They split last year somewhat, maybe possibly controversial on the second game. A high stick call on what may or may not have been a high stick led to a goal being waved off that would have given the Broncos the win. They ended up losing in overtime in front of the Lunatics. After winning at Yost on Friday night, same locations, same days, different year. Friday's game will be at Yost. Michigan's coming off of a decent performance last weekend. I mean, they schedule their schedule the way they do. Not necessarily the toughest. Another stacked team, though. They always just put together incredible teams.
Yeah, looking at their schedule, they beat Lindenwood.
They're 5-1. They swept Lindenwood. They split with Boston. They beat Lake Superior State.
Yeah, and the BU win, that first win 9-2. Dear God, what happened?
Yeah, right.
That's what I want to know. And then for BU to come back and win 3-2, it's kind of like, what were you guys doing that first game? Did you just go out to the bars Thursday night and weren't ready, or what?
Well, something. They did something wrong. Western has done a decent job of competing against Michigan the last few years. And I'll tell you what, the coach may say that they're not circling weekends, but there have been a number of players who have said otherwise. Yes, there's 14 new players on this team that did not play in the series last year or compete in what would have been the GLI last year, but the guys who did, they wanted U of M again in the GLI, and they did not get it. So they were a number of those dudes. I think even the captain said in his, I think I sent you that press conference this week, said that he had this weekend circled for sure. Another player made mention at an open house that they had this weekend circled, and it was one that they were looking forward to at the beginning of the season. Western wants to play this team. They want to come out and show that, yes, Michigan has 9 national championships in their history, none since 1998. But they want to come out and show that Western is the best team in Michigan in college hockey, and we play in the toughest conference there is. And until you either play in that conference or you win a national title, we're going to be top dogs, and we're going to show you every week, every time we match up with you. Honestly, that feels like what this series means to our players and our fans and our program.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I don't blame the guys that were there last year having this circled because, Michigan was too scared. They just were too scared to play them. That's all it was. And yeah, it definitely, I do think Michigan has that big brother syndrome where they're, it's Western. They're just pushovers. They're a little annoying brother in hockey. And Western has that little brother syndrome where we're going to show you and we're going to compete and be the best that we can. And you're right. Michigan hasn't done anything, and it's a what have you done for me lately? And they haven't done anything since, the last time they made a national championship game, I think they lost to UMD.
I'm not entirely sure. I know they haven't won a national title since 1998. I know they've been there, been close a few times. They lost last year to Denver. They won a conference title last year, but I think that's even their first one in the Big Ten, or maybe they've won a couple Big Ten conference tournaments. They did not win a conference tournament in at least the last 3 years of the CCHA. That was 10 years ago, but I know they did not win any of the last 3 that were held because Western beat them in the the semifinals in 2011 and then lost to Miami. Western beat Miami to go to the finals in 2012 where they beat Michigan, and I want to say Miami won it again in 2013, but I'm not entirely sure.
Let's see. I'm looking back to the last time. 2010, 2011 was the last time they made the national championship, and that's when they lost to UMD.
Yeah, so we're even at over 10 years since they've even been in the national title game. They're always talented teams, but they're this year they have a new head coach. There was some drama going on in the offseason there. They're clearly not letting it affect their game too much, but my heart wants to say that Western sweeps this series because I want to see it, and I know that we're capable of doing it. The smart play is probably a split.
I think the smart play is the home and home split.
I almost think it's going to be, but see, here's the thing too, no matter what, Western's playing with a ton of emotion in this series. And add to that the crowd that is going to be at Lawson on Saturday. It's going to be an extraordinary atmosphere.
Yeah, because you guys are doing the whiteout too, I think I saw.
Yep, they're making it a whiteout game. The ECH guys are going to be here doing their little game day tour thing that they've started this year. The Lunatics are ready to literally like punch anything in the mouth that's wearing blue and maize. Like they are rabid. So they're gonna be nuts. And it's almost gonna be like how much of that atmosphere can Western channel in a positive way, and how much can they contain themselves to play the game that they need to play and get the result that they want. Like, there's gonna be a lot to juggle that game. I almost think like if it's a split, it's gonna be the away teams winning each game, like we saw last year. I don't know if it's really gonna be the home teams winning, but Western just feels like we have more to play for. We have more, we want this more than Michigan does. And there's still quite a few guys who were pretty angry about last season.
I think you bring up a valid point with the Lunatics and the energy and everything. How much can you channel into the game and being positive, and how much can you control it so you don't get overhyped? Because playing sports myself, I know you can almost overhype yourself and then you come out flat. I've been there. I've done that to myself, and then you don't play well. So how much do you just channel the energy? How calmly can you come out and then just feed off the crowd as the game goes on? Because I think that's the key, is you come out calm like it's another game and try. It's way easier said than done, but trying to kind of block out what's going on, and then as the game goes, you feed off the energy because you guys are playing well. You want to play well and then have the energy come in, and not have it all hit you before the game even starts, and then you have heavy legs.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. I don't know if this was all tickets, but from what I saw, that Western released their single game tickets for this game, I think Monday at like 10 o'clock, and allegedly they sold out in 5 minutes. Now that may just be the student claim for their seats. I don't know if that was like all seats, but at least the student section claimed all their tickets in 5 minutes of being able to. So there is want for this game here. It's gonna be interesting to see how so many new faces handle Lawson, probably at its best and worst. And it's unfortunate that Michigan's ranked number 4 coming to Lawson Ice Arena. I'll tell you that.
But
even though they missed the opportunity last year with Duluth coming in at number 4, they're aware of what Michigan's ranked this year, and they know that it's 4.
Oh yeah, and you know, it's one thing with UMD coming in versus Michigan. It's there's definitely a different flavor to the series than there is with UMD. But I know I know I'm gonna have that game on here, and I'm probably even gonna bring it upstairs, and if my brother's around, be like, dude, we gotta watch this game and watch what the Lawson Lunatics do, because I still have yet to really see the game. Because I haven't even seen one, because last year I was driving when UMD played at Western, so I haven't even really gotten to see what the Lunatics are. So I'm definitely pulling that one up, especially since I've upgraded and now I can actually just pull that game up. That's why I did it.
I'm gonna be stupid. I'm gonna say Western sweeps this weekend. I'm putting all my faith in the boys.
I'm gonna say a split, but I'm gonna go home teams win and not away teams win.
I'm gonna back the boys. I'm not always gonna call it a split or a sweep for Western, but
I think in this one you just kind of got to be a homer.
I will always be a homer.
You're just a realistic homer most of the time.
Yeah.
Same here.
There's just a feeling around the team this year that this was a game that they're very much looking forward to, that they want. They're going to be, I don't know that they're going to be extremely disappointed if it doesn't go their way, but there's going to be some hurt feelings. I'll tell you, if they do lose Friday, that Saturday is just going to be that much more emotionally charged. But I think Firschweiler's a good coach, and he'll keep their heads on, and they'll definitely be able to get it done. I think it was more of a shock last year, which I don't really know that it was much of a shock last year for Western to roll in and do what they did, other than just the fact that there were the names on the score sheets made Michigan look better. Honestly, better than I'll say that they were.
Yeah.
And I'll always go with the team that has a little more heart over big names.
Yeah. Can Western and Michigan just have not wait till the handshake line and just have a good old bench clear Donnybrook? Maybe 5 minutes to go in the third and just have at her.
I mean, that would be fun to watch. I know Western got into it with State a few years ago, back before I was watching games. But yeah, I think honestly of all the games this weekend, I'm gonna say that the Western versus U of M series is probably gonna be the top watch of all the series going on this weekend. Denver Miami, that's good for the start of NCHC play.
Yeah, I think that's the Denver Miami might be the most underrated series. But yeah, Western and Michigan are going to be that's the marquee series of the weekend.
I think that might be the marquee series overall too. Like, I mean, looking at some of the other ones, like if you gave me the list of matchups this weekend and you said you could only watch one, honestly, the Michigan Western game is a standout at the moment. I'm gonna double check and see what the rest of the slate looks like, but that's as of right now, that one's the one. No, that's not what I wanted. Don't click on the wrong things, please. Is it here? No, that's not what I wanted either. Where did it go? I had it earlier. Okay. This might work anyway. Thursday night, Boston and UConn. That one's not terrible.
Not terrible, but still not that exciting.
Who is... Cornell versus Minnesota Duluth.
Yeah, not exciting.
Honestly, I think if Cornell had played some games where they were a little bit better of a team, that one would be a decent one. Yeah, honestly, there's not even anything really close to the magnitude that this game is. If we're being honest, Michigan State, Notre Dame. I would say
that should be a pretty good one.
Yeah, Michigan State's been not great the last few years. I think they're doing a little bit better this year. If it was a football game, yes, this one would. Michigan State's 4-2, Notre Dame's 2-1.
It's still just the Michigan State, Michigan State Notre Dame, kind of like Notre Dame and any Michigan team. Basically, there's a little bit of a rivalry there.
Yeah, I mean it's a Big Ten matchup. Sure, why not? But I don't think there's as much drama as there is Minnesota, Ohio State. If that were football, that would definitely be one worth watching.
If it was football, no, it wouldn't. We'd get killed. True. Look at what happened Saturday.
That's true. Maybe it'd be a little more interesting. I mean, that one's an okay matchup, I guess. Minnesota, just because Minnesota's number 1, Ohio State's 11, so that they're not awful. But yeah, honestly, if we're Penn State, Wisconsin, meh. That one doesn't really do anything for me. No. Wisconsin's been struggling. Yes, they're coming off a sweep of Minnesota Duluth, but those are their only 2 wins so far this season.
Yeah, don't remind me.
Yeah, there's really not much else that I am looking forward to this weekend, even conference-wise. I mean, St. Cloud, Bemidji State, we're kind of expecting St. Cloud to roll over Bemidji. Denver, Miami, that's really more shock value if Miami can steal one.
Omaha, LIU is nothing. North Dakota, Arizona State.
That's
one
one
game.
game. We're kind of expecting, I'm going for the shock value of Arizona State winning that one, but that's
And then,
really,
I mean,
that one's really more factor of like the fact that it's in Las Vegas, and that one's more fun for the people who are going to that game than people watching that on TV.
Right. I think CC Air Force could be entertaining just because it's the rivalry game for the trophy. But as far as intensity and level of hockey, I mean, the intensity is probably going to be there, but just not quite to the level of Western and Michigan.
No, I honestly, that game, both that weekend should be on ESPN. That should be an ESPN matchup if there was ever going to be one for one single weekend of college hockey. And I mean, Friday's game will be able to be watched on NCHC TV. I do not know about. I think Friday's game is on Big Ten Network.
No, if it's on Big Ten Network, then that'll work. But
if you were looking to put a marquee matchup from this weekend on ESPN or ESPN Plus, like if there was supposed to be a national broadcasted game this weekend, that would honestly be my pick for it.
Too bad their ESPN has their thumbs so far up their asses that they love Hockey East, and that's the only conference that they think matters, even though they haven't done.
Well, ESPN's headquarters
really
were or still are in Connecticut, so
they are, but still, the worldwide leader in sports is not. It's more or less the worldwide leader in Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, and LeBron James.
Hey, you got to talk about the needle movers, and those guys are the needle movers, so it's going to be that way. I think that'll about do it. We've gone about an hour 15-ish.
Roughly, after you figured your stuff out.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think we're going to call that one there. Oh, yeah, do those things. We are on Twitter. Our personal handles are mine's right there. Michael's is right there under his picture. Other side. There you go. We have the YouTube channel. And actually, I'm going to try and see if maybe next week we don't go live on YouTube. I'm working on getting permissions granted to be able to go live there. So we might switch it up. Move over there for live broadcasting. Maybe it's a little more equitable for everybody, or easier to use for everybody. I don't know. We'll try it out, see what we like, see what we don't. There's the Twitter handle for the page scrolling along now. There's the email address going right there. Leave messages, leave comments, leave likes, leave dislikes. Don't do either of those things. Follow the channel. Don't follow the channel. Subscribe on YouTube. Don't subscribe on YouTube. Find it. Don't find it. Whatever. Doesn't hurt our feelings. We're going to do this anyway. So.
Yeah, you're a person. You can do what you want.
Yeah, make decisions. They're good for you. I think other than one last thing to say, we will be out of here. And that's Pucks on Net. Good things happen because we like to hear goals, horns, and sing fight songs. Until next week, have a good one. Bye-bye.